February 20th, 1943, north of Kesserin Pass, Tunisia. The morning air was thick with dust and the acrid scent of burnt fuel. German tank commanders, hardened veterans of North Africa, witnessed maneuvers that defied everything their doctrine had ever taught them. 5 American Sherman tanks moved across the terrain as if guided by an unseen force, separated by rocky ridges and depressions, invisible to each other, yet arriving at German positions with perfect, synchronized timing. There were no signals, no flags, no flares, no dispatch riders scrambling to deliver orders. Yet every Sherman crew seemed to know exactly where their comrades were, covering each blind spot the others could not see. Inside each Sherman, the atmosphere was tense, but controlled. Crew members spoke quietly, relying entirely on FM radios to maintain awareness. The loader called out target changes instantly. The driver adjusted speed based on positions relayed from neighboring tanks, and the gunner prepared for threats they couldn't even see. The tank was not just metal. It was a mobile nerve center of coordinated firepower. This invisible network gave every crew member confidence and a sense of unity that the Germans could neither comprehend nor replicate. In contrast, Panzer IVs, outfitted with the standard FUG-5 radios, struggled to maintain communication. Static constantly overpowered their amplitude-modulated signals, and moving tanks reduced the effective range of their 10-watt transmitters to mere hundreds of meters. Most German tanks had only receivers. They could hear orders, but could neither transmit observations nor call for reinforcements. When command tanks were destroyed, chaos ensued. Individual crews, isolated and blind to the bigger picture, made desperate, fragmented decisions that often led to catastrophic losses. The Americans, however, operated on a level the Germans had never imagined. Every Sherman tank carried a frequency modulation radio, SCR-508, SCR-528, or SCR-538, engineered for crystal-controlled precision, 25 watts of power, and clarity that cut through engine noise and artillery fire. In essence, the Americans had created a battlefield network decades ahead of German understanding. Every Sherman tank became not just a tank, but a node in a vast, interconnected web of communication. This technological revolution had its roots in the early 1940s when the United States standardized signal corps radios for all medium tanks. Engineers at the Galvin Manufacturing Company, later known as Motorola, perfected FM radio for battlefield conditions. Daniel E. Noble envisioned FM communication for military vehicles, while Henryk Magnoski solved the technical challenges of integrating sophisticated electronics into a harsh, vibrating, and electrically noisy environment. The resulting system weighed 181 pounds, but transformed the Sherman into a force multiplier. The BC-604 transmitter delivered 25 watts, more than twice the output of German FUG-5 units. With dual BC-603 receivers in the STR-508, tank commanders could monitor multiple channels simultaneously, a capability that would prove decisive in combat. FM technology itself, developed by Edwin Armstrong and licensed to the military, eliminated the static that had crippled German AM radios. While German radios picked up every spark plug and track movement as noise, American FM radios delivered crystal-clear voice communication even during artillery barrages. When Operation Torch landed American armor in North Africa in November 1942, the 2nd Armored Division's tanks, equipped with SCR-508 radios, demonstrated capabilities that German intelligence could scarcely comprehend. While the Africa Corps relied on a handful of FUG-5 transceivers, American tanks operated as fully networked units. Even scattered Sherman platoons, miles apart, coordinated attacks, warned one another of threats, and called in artillery support with unmatched precision. The Battle of Kasserine Pass from February 14th to 24th, 1943, became the first major test. Though tactically a German victory, it highlighted the seismic difference in communication. The Americans maintained coordination across 50 miles of terrain. German intelligence, monitoring these transmissions, marveled at their clarity. Every Sherman, not just command vehicles, could transmit and receive, rendering traditional German hierarchy and rigid platoon structure obsolete. German radio limitations meant that once command tanks were destroyed, coordination collapsed. Against Sherman networks, such vulnerability was catastrophic. By September 1943, American tanks advanced into Italy's mountains. Where visual signals were impossible and German AM radios failed completely, the FM-equipped Shermans maintained flawless coordination. Ridgelines that would have fragmented German attacks only amplified the effectiveness of American networked maneuvers. Units separated by valleys and ridges struck simultaneously, proving doctrines of line-of-sight coordination obsolete. The engineers behind the radios anticipated battlefield challenges few others could imagine. Temperature extremes, vibration from rough terrain, and the constant electrical interference from engines and gun systems could easily destabilize sensitive equipment. Yet the FM radios, with their crystal-controlled frequencies, remained reliable. Sherman crews sometimes marveled at how clear their comrades' voices were, even under bombardment and machine gun fire. This reliability was a morale booster, giving crews the sense that, no matter how isolated they felt physically, they were part of an unstoppable network. As Allied forces landed at Normandy on June 6, 1944, the SCR 508 radios connected Sherman tanks with naval artillery and infantry forward positions, although a frequency mismatch initially limited tank infantry coordination. Innovative crews soon mounted field telephones on tank exteriors, linking directly to internal communication, restoring seamless combined arms coordination by Operation Cobra in late July 1944. During Operation Cobra, the 2nd Armored Division under Major General Edward H. Brooks coordinated over 200 Sherman tanks across sprawling radio networks. German defenders, including the elite Panzer divisions, faced an enemy that reacted instantly to threats reported miles away. Artillery strikes arrived within minutes of target identification, executed with precision German units could only dream of. German tanks, relying on outdated AM systems with minimal transceivers, could not match this responsiveness.
The irony was profound. Germany, the pioneer of radio in armored warfare, had by 1943 failed to equip its tanks according to the doctrine it had itself created. While Field Marshal Guderian and his engineers had emphasized radios as essential to blitzkrieg, production limitations left many German tanks effectively isolated. By contrast, every Sherman tank, from first to last, carried a functional FM radio. Production statistics underline the scale of American achievement. Over 50,000 SCR 508 series radios produced during the war, equipping 100% of Sherman tanks. In contrast, Germany produced roughly 6,000 FUG-5 radios for medium and heavy tanks, providing full transceivers to only about 20% of their vehicles. The result? American coordination, reaction speed, and battlefield awareness dwarfed German capabilities. Average time for an American fire mission was 3 to 5 minutes, compared to 15 to 30 minutes for German forces. This technological edge extended far beyond statistics. Sherman crews fought with confidence, knowing they were never alone. German crews experienced profound isolation, forced to fight in fragmented engagements without support. The psychological impact was decisive. The interconnected Sherman platoon operated almost as a single organism, each tank aware of threats and opportunities across the battlefield, while German units struggled to maintain basic cohesion. The SCR-508 radio's advantages were more than power or range. Crystal-controlled stability maintained frequency alignment even under extreme conditions. Dual receivers allowed simultaneous monitoring of multiple networks, and integrated intercoms ensured every crew member could communicate threats instantly. Power management automatically adjusted voltage for maximum stability, while German systems lacked suppression against vehicle-generated interference. The result was real-time situational awareness across entire divisions. The strategic implications were staggering. During the Third Army's rapid advance across France, radio networks allowed divisions to operate over hundreds of miles with unprecedented tempo. Battles such as the capture of the Remagen Bridge and the encirclement of the Ruhr Pocket were executed with synchronization impossible for any force lacking universal communication. German units trapped without coordination succumbed not only to superior numbers, but to the unmatched ability of American forces to act as a cohesive, networked entity. Post-war assessments confirmed what the battlefield had revealed. U.S. Army Technical Intelligence Report 176 concluded that German tank communications were roughly 5 years behind American systems. Soviet evaluators, given access to captured German equipment, preferred to replicate American radios rather than German systems in post-war designs. Lessons learned from Sherman radio superiority shaped modern armored doctrine. Networked communication outweighs individual platform capability. From the deserts of Tunisia to the mountains of Italy, the hedgerows of Normandy and the plains of Germany, Sherman tanks demonstrated the power of connectivity. Each tank was more than a vehicle. It was a node in a vast, invisible system that amplified its effectiveness far beyond raw armor or firepower. Modern networked-centric warfare traces its roots to this innovation, where connection and coordination are as lethal as the weapon itself. The final irony is captured in a reputed statement at Germany's surrender. "We knew how to build better tanks, but you knew how to make them work together." America did not simply produce tanks, it created a battlefield network, turning every Sherman into a weapon and a communications hub. The electromagnetic spectrum, invisible to German crews, carried the force that ultimately overwhelmed the Wehrmacht. By the end of the war, the lesson was clear. In modern combat, information dominance and real-time coordination are more decisive than raw platform superiority. The SCR-508 transformed armored warfare, proving that the right communication system could render technological inferiority in armor irrelevant. The Sherman tank's radio network had rewritten the rules of mechanized combat, and German forces learned this too late. Across North Africa, Italy, France, and Germany, the Americans had not just fought, they had fought as one, interconnected and unstoppable. The story of the Sherman tank and its radios remains a triumph of engineering, innovation, and foresight. It reminds us that in warfare, the invisible threads of communication often determine victory far more than steel and guns.